Hi, I'm Suzanne with Clever Poverty, where we talk about clever tips for tiny budgets. And today we are talking about Section 8 vouchers. I have one myself. It took a while to get one. Where I lived, all the lists were closed. I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. I'll go into how I did that in another video. What would be wonderful is if you like and subscribe and comment in the comment sections. That's apparently how the Google robots work. And so in case you are a senior and you're not really savvy with how things, when they say like, subscribe, and choose your notifications, you're like, what do I do? If you're like me, it took me a while to figure it out. So this is how it works. You click subscribe, and then you'll get the little bell in case you've watched videos and you're like, where's the bell? You have to first hit subscribe, then you get this little bell, and you click on the bell, and then you can choose your notifications. So if you want to be notified when I upload another video, or how often you want to be notified, if you don't want to be notified, that's where you do it. So there are two different kinds of Section 8 vouchers. It's really important that you know the difference. There are pros and cons to both. And so I'm saying there are pros to a project-based voucher, and we'll talk about those. But there are cons to it that if you don't know about them ahead of time, you could mess up your plan. And getting a Section 8 voucher is not something you can do overnight, which we all know, right? So it is a plan. You need a strategy, and you need to understand that it's going to take time. So if going for one of the kinds of vouchers is going to end up costing you more time and maybe another move that you weren't anticipating. And when you're super low income, moving, even if you just put everything up for free on Craigslist, it's still expensive to move. You've got to have your security deposit money. You've got to transfer utilities and all of that kind of stuff. And you don't get your security deposit back from your last place until, you're already in the next place. So it's not like you can use that money. So, you don't want any surprises. So it's important to know this. So that's why I am talking about this today, okay? So the two kinds of Section 8 vouchers are a project-based voucher and a tenant-based voucher. Now, what that means is the voucher for a project stays with the project only. It is attached to the project. It is stuck to that land, to that building, to that project, to that apartment complex, okay? If you move, bye-bye voucher, okay? And this is something I did not understand, and I was actually given bad information. So you need to know that, okay? Now, there are times when moving into one does make sense, and we'll talk about that, in my opinion, which is gold, of course. So, and then there is the tenant-based, and that means it's attached to the tenant. So when you think based, think attached. So attached to the property or attached to the tenant. So if it's attached to the tenant and the tenant wants to move to another place that accepts Section 8, they can, right? Because it's attached to the tenant. The tenant moves, voucher goes with them. Project, tenant moves, oops, bye-bye voucher. So, okay, so now you're kind of probably already figuring out what the cons are going to be. Now, there are times when they are a good deal. So let's talk about the pros first, okay? A pro is, maybe you can't move away. Maybe you're taking care of your mom, you're a caregiver. You've got kids in school. You don't want to take them out of the school and their friends and stuff. So, it might not be an option for you to move away to get a Section 8 voucher that's tenant-based, that you can move anywhere that accepts Section 8. So that's a pro. So, let's just say, I can't tell if I'm still in the shot. Okay, maybe it's local, and that's important to you. Okay. So that could be a pro, that the project might be local and you can get into that building. So with the project-based vouchers, you don't have to already have a voucher. You might have to get on a waiting list, but then once you get in, you get Section 8 pricing, right? So Section 8 is roughly around 30%, depends on the jurisdiction. I pay 32 right now. Legislation, they're looking at changing that. But anyway, right now, I'm paying 32%, but it's usually around 30%. So you get the same pricing in a project-based one, right? So if you get into that building, if you qualify, you apply to be a tenant there, then and you are within the income guidelines and all of that for the project, then you automatically, by being a tenant in that building, you get Section 8 pricing. So you only have to pay 30-ish% of your income. So so that's it's the same deal. It's just in that building or that apartment complex. Sometimes the wait list is shorter. It depends, because some of these projects, okay, let's say the wait list shorter, maybe. Okay, so it's possible, because some of the project-based buildings, some of them are converted old hotels in downtown areas with no parking, no yards, and sometimes they're only studios or one bedrooms. So they're not always really perfect, but they're local, and because they're not perfect, sometimes the waiting list is shorter. So if you're willing to move into a smaller place, if they allow however many people are in your family, and you're willing to, one place that I looked at in Santa Rosa, California, in downtown, I think it's called the Rosenberg Building in downtown Santa Rosa. The problem with parking there, and I just didn't want to deal with it. You had to pay for parking if you had a car and you wanted to be somewhat close to the building. They had, I think, 3 different parking garages, and only one of them had openings, and it was like 3 blocks away in one of those parking structures. So, I was like, eh. So their list was short, but, sometimes there's a reason. This is a really good reason to move into one where tenant-based list is open. Okay, so this is a really good reason to move into one. But remember, it's you're going to have money to move twice is the downside. But if the Section 8 list is open where a project-based property is, it can make sense to move into one. For instance, in Santa Rosa, California, the one that I looked at, their list was open, but it was a lottery-based system, and that's another video. Lottery-based Section 8 waiting lists, horrible, because it's not like you're number 5,000 and you are going to work your way up. It's just a free-for-all. It's a lottery. Every time they open up the list, they just like they're doing, the pull out the number of the bingo thing, so, you may never get it. Whereas, you might be willing to wait 10 years to get to the top if it's based on, first come, first serve. But if it's a lottery based, forget that. So keep that in mind. That's another video. There's so much information. But anyway, so let's say for instance, Santa Rosa's list was open, which is not. But anyway, let's pretend. In a perfect world, let's say that I found out that the Santa Rosa had this project-based property in downtown that I wasn't in love with, which is why there was a short list. In fact, there were openings immediately when I looked into it. And let's say that was the case, and you knew that their tenant-based list was also open and you could get on it, then this is a good idea. So make sure you're saving your money, because when this happens, you lose this. So you don't get to keep both, okay? With these, with either one, if you have this and you move into here, you lose it. If you're in here and you move there, you lose this one. So, you know, you got to know all this stuff. You got to keep this in mind. So let's say that Santa Rosa, for instance, had this project that I could get into immediately, and let's pretend that their tenant-based list was also open. Then you move in here, you get on this list, you wait, you bide your time. When you get to the top of this list and they call you, then you can move out of this one, and then you've got the Holy Grail, right? Okay, so that is a really good pro to moving into these, but you've got to have the combination, in my opinion, to make it worth it. It's another thing. Let's say, for instance, okay, I put security, but that's kind of confusing. Let's say stability. Ability. If this project burns down, or they have fulfilled their commitment to local and maybe federal governments, maybe they made a deal for a tax incentive for low-income housing project, but it only had to be for 20 years, for instance. Anyway, you could end up losing this. And then I just said that the additional cost, let's just say moving cost. If you are planning on, getting one of these and then moving into one of these, there's going to be that cost. So you need to keep that in mind. Tenant-based, I mean, the biggest pro, of course, is, it's movable. I'm going to say, portable, you know what that means, but let's just say it's movable, portable. Portable. And so, like I was saying earlier, you're not stuck to any particular property. If you want to move to another place that accepts Section 8, you can take it with you. And I'm talking, I should make this clear. Any housing authority, they're called Public Housing Authority, or PHA, must accept people who want to move to their jurisdictions, as of right now anyway, who have a Section 8 voucher. So now this is, all 50 states have public housing authorities. Most counties, cities do. Sometimes there are separate ones for cities and counties. And then this also includes the territories. We're talking like Guam and the Virgin Islands, and yeah. So, I mean, if you're just like, I want to move to Hawaii, if you can afford to do it, and you can find a Section 8, a place that accepts Section 8 in Hawaii, and you qualify, bye-bye, you get to move to Hawaii. So it's portable. And this is a giant thing, right? Okay. And, and plus, I have to kind of say, another downside to these is that landlords know you're locked in. So they can be, I don't know, there could be a problem with that. If they know that it's kind of like being held prisoner in a way. Not all landlords are lovely people. So, and I used to manage properties, so I know from experience. I, of course, was wonderful. So the pros, being able to move it, and the feeling of security that goes along with that. It's the security, as far as your stable housing. God. That's just so stressful. And there's another video I'm going to make about low-income housing tax credit properties. Those are the properties that you should be targeting as far as where to apply, where they will accept your Section 8 voucher. So the cons, of course, the con is going to be wait time. The wait time to get a voucher, as you know, is huge. Now there are places where the wait list is really short, or it's open, and because it's somewhere people don't really want to live, that's where I ended up going. It wasn't horrible. I can find the upside in any place I go. Um, but they're usually kind of isolated areas. They're really poor counties, maybe, that are rural, that are very sparsely populated. They have public housing authorities too. So if it's a place that's transient, people don't, really, it's kind of a stopping place. They're just like, I don't like living in the boonies, and then they move like me. But you can get a voucher by doing that, by going to those boony places. So that's how you get around the wait time. It's not easy. It's going to be like it's a goal. Like I say, it's like a retirement plan. And when people go, oh God, it's going to take me a couple years, or maybe more, maybe less. I have to move away. Oh my God. And I tell them, did you graduate high school in a week? Did you get a college degree in a month? Did you learn your skill, or did you get to where you are in your career overnight? No, this is a plan. And what I tell people too, it's like, okay, let's say this takes you 3 years to accomplish, and it means you have to move to the boonies and wait, and then get on waiting lists and blah blah blah, and come before you can come back. Let's say that here's your 3 years. Okay, so you let's say you start on this plan today, and in 3 years you'll have your voucher and you'll be where you want to be. Okay, now if you just go, it's too hard, wah wah wah, well, 3 years happens, and then you're here and you're still wah wah wah, right? But the guy who was here, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. In 3 years, that guy's got what he wanted, and he's telling all the other people around him who are going, how'd you get your voucher? And you're like, well, I got a plan. It took me 3 years. Oh, well, alrighty. You suffer. I got my voucher. You want to be, jealous of me? You go out there and do what I did. You can. Everybody can. So I'm hoping you can. I'm hoping you got the moxie, because, 3 years from now, you'll be remembering, that Suzanne said, I could have had the voucher in 3 years. So, okay, there's that. As you see, I go on, and I go off on tangents. Okay, so, all right, and so the wait time's longer. You might have to live somewhere you'd rather not live. Like, ew. Places with open lists are ew. You might not love being there. And maybe having to move, away from your friends. That was hard for me. You might have to move away, move from, loved ones for, maybe a few years. And, you can always Skype and stuff. It's not the same. It was hard, I have to say. I mean, I had some serious depression. I moved somewhere where there's like no sunlight, and I had to take vitamin D because I was like low on vitamin D and majorly depressed, and like, writing my gratitude list, and like, yes, you can. I had all these affirmations, like, and it worked, though. I did get here, so you can too. But I'm acknowledging that you might be, taking Prozac and vitamin D until you can leave and go back, be where you really wanted to be. Oh, and then schools, if you have kids, your kids are going to be changing schools and maybe be in a different culture. Like I'm moderate, but I lean Democrat for sure. And where I had to go, most rural places are very Republican. So I can get along. I was married to a logger a long time ago. I can get along with rednecks just fine. You basically don't talk religion and politics, and you're good to go. And, if you don't mind watching people, kill and eat their own meat and whatnot, you're okay. I can go with that. I just, I go with the flow. But anyway, it can be a culture shock. So like, if you're going with kids in particular, they're going to be in a whole different culture, and that can be a good experience, but it's something to keep in mind. So maybe schools. I'll just put schools, for kids. So I think that kind of covers it. We kind of gone on a long time, but I just wanted to basically cover these two things. I know I covered a little bit more and kind of teased you a little bit. There's just so much to learn, but I think this is really the basic information about that you need to know about the difference between the two different kinds of vouchers. So when you're like, oh my God, I see there's a project-based, voucher place that I can, move into. Just know the pros and cons. So I think that basically covers it. Thanks so much for still being here, and I hope that you will like, subscribe, and leave tips and questions and comments below. I'll do my very best to answer questions and respond. So I'll see you in the next video, I hope. Suzanne here with Clever Poverty, where we talk about clever tips for tiny budgets. Bye-bye. I'm so glad you are here.